And welcome back to Coaching with the Bible. This is episode 80. Well, that's a good number to say out loud. Episode 80, season 2, episode 26. The portion of the week is the section in the book of Vayikra, the third book of the 5 books of Moses, known as Shmini. Shmini translating to the 8th day. Our topic today is the third rite of asking. I'm skipping the second rite of asking simply because it doesn't come up in this week's reading, and going to the third rite of asking on getting the timing right. Just to recap, we talked last week about the first rite of asking, being the right person. The 4 rites of asking are being the right person at the making the right ask at the right time for the right amount. And so the third rite of asking is timing. And timing, we all know the quote, say it with me as I say it, timing is everything. And it's really true, right? It's really true that timing is everything. Getting the timing right on a project or on a business, on a startup, or in a moment makes that thing happen, and you're amazed by it. You're inspired by it. You remember it. Get the timing wrong, and it's disaster. So I remember growing up, there was a commercial. I don't remember what the commercial was for, but the commercial was someone singing the song, the famous song from baseball games, "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," singing it one note off. And as they got to the end, they had finished the words, but there was still time left in the music. The timing being off got the whole thing wrong, made there's some sense of dissonance and discomfort, and the whole thing was a disaster, and I think that was the point of the commercial. So getting the timing right is really important. It's like walking into a room where someone just found out about a tragedy and telling a joke. Read the literature and the research and the quotes from comedians, and they talk about that one of the key things in getting and being successful as a comedian is learning the timing of the joke, the punchline, understanding the rhythm and the flow, of course, obviously being generally funny, but the timing of the punchline, that it hits when it's supposed to hit, otherwise it falls flat on its face. So timing is really important. And the reason I wanted to discuss timing this week specifically is because obviously it does come up, I think, to some degree. You'll allow me a little bit of leeway when I talk about the subject from this week's portion, but also with respect to a trip that I took this week to New York. It felt like it was ultimately the perfectly timed trip for the project that I was working on, still working on. And here's the back end of that, was that at some point I felt like this business trip had to happen, that there'd be a few days needed to spend time with this group. And the question was simply when. And as I looked at the calendar, realizing that I'm up against a couple of important milestones coming our way. One is the bar mitzvah of our youngest child, and also the holiday of Passover. Pesach is coming in just a few weeks. And so a lot of people just shut down in the Jewish community around that time with respect to large projects, simply focused on the holiday, on their family, some time off. And so the timing of the trip was either now or sometime in 3 to 4 weeks. And to appreciate that it really had to be now to really get the project and the people working on the project to where I felt like perhaps it needed to be so that it could go forward and ultimately succeed. So the timing was right. The meetings that took place were perfectly timed for when we needed them to happen to really propel this potential project forward to its ultimate success. And then when we look back on it, ultimately after it succeeds, we'll look back and say that trip really helped make that succeed. So the timing of things is really important. How does that fit in the reading of this week? So this week's reading has a narrative. In the book of Leviticus, there's very little narrative that's actually there. Mostly it's not. It's a lot of law. And so when you get a narrative, you try to focus on the narrative. And the narrative this week is the completion and the celebration of the completion of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, in the desert. And it's the 8th day. The 8th day on the calendar was the first day of the month of Nisan, which is just around the corner on the Hebrew calendar. And it's a celebration. A massive celebration. This is a day, months in the planning, months in the works, having collected all the materials, having gathered all the materials, having fashioned all the materials into the different, vestments and coverings and whatever you want to call them. My brain is a little bit fried. I'm still traveling in my own mind, right? Altars and all the different things, the ark, the menorah, all those different things that are necessary to make that tabernacle work, to make the Mishkan work and be a place where God would rest. And so now we finally get to that, and it's an amazing day, and it's all sort of going really, really well, and God rests upon it. And then we know the story that in the beginning of chapter 10 in the book of Leviticus, in this section, we hear the story of the two sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, who come along. They offer a sacrifice that was not commanded, and then tragically, they are killed on the spot. You can imagine the moment, the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, in an immediate twist and flip. It's an awful moment. Last year, we focused on an aspect that takes place later on, after the story of the two men being killed in that moment, in Moses acknowledging not knowing something, which is also was fascinating at the time and still fascinating today. But this year I want to focus in a little bit, I think, on what went wrong. And so it's clear in the text that they did something that they weren't supposed to do. They brought a fire, an incense fire, that they were not commanded to do. And we could go into what exactly the actual sin is of Nadav and Avihu, and many of the commentaries do. There is a host of commentaries, a variety of opinions as to what exactly their sin was. What exactly did they do wrong here in this moment? And so I want to stay away actually from most of them and focus on a different aspect of it, which is an appreciation of the moment, and specifically the timing of the act. The fact that it wasn't commanded is obviously very important, but the truth is there are certain moments in the Bible where Moses wasn't commanded to do certain things. He does them, and God, in fact, for lack of a better term, applauds him for having done them. So acting sort of spontaneously or out of character or beyond the corpus and the scope of the law, in some cases actually is okay, it's warranted, to give the human personality the opportunity to do some things. It does go overboard, and we saw that in the book of Exodus when the people in the desert build the golden calf. It does obviously have a precarious danger that's attached to it on one end. So we have to be really careful with the innovation and spontaneity of these things, but other moments it's there. But there are moments when it's not there, and it shouldn't be there, and it's not necessary to have the moment be the moment it's supposed to be. This is one of them. And the reason that I want to focus on timing specifically as the aspect of it, appreciating it, is actually connecting it to the sin of Moses and Aaron later on in the Bible. I'm going a little deeper on the Bible section here today, where they too are commanded to do one thing, in their case, commanded to speak to the rock. Moses hits the rock, and then they're punished with the consequence that they can no longer lead the people, and they cannot lead the people into the land of Israel. Seemingly the whole purpose of the Exodus in the first place. And so, among the explanations there, I think, is also a sense of missing the moment and not appreciating the timing of the act. Because we know that earlier on in the Bible, Moses does hit the rock, and it's fine. There, the violation of the command is the command was to speak, and he hits. So what's the issue there? To some degree is appreciating the timing of the moment and what was needed in that moment. In that moment with Moses and Aaron, God needed them to speak to the rock and not hit the rock. To appreciate the timing that it's upon the impending entrance into the land of Israel, which was going to require a certain nature of a relationship with God, and not understanding or appreciating the heft and the seriousness of the moment, not appreciating the timing, costs them dearly. Here, I think, is also the case, if we can apply that idea here, that these two sons of Aaron did not appreciate to the highest level, let's say, the moment as it stood, as it was, without their interference, without their personal, unique, singular role in it, separate and distinct from everybody else. That the moment itself was amazing and transformational, inspiring and uplifting and moving and motivating and all those things without them. And appreciating that with respect to timing, their act on some level is like telling a joke at a funeral. It's just simply the wrong time. So timing is really important. Getting the timing right in life is really important because, as we know, timing is everything. And so the trip this week ultimately felt like it was timed perfectly. There's a great article on a website called nfx.com. NFX is, I believe it's actually it's like a venture capital firm. They write a lot. They put out a lot of really interesting articles if you like to geek out about a lot of these interesting things on startups and investment. And there he talks about, in this article, why startup timing is everything. Because for startups, timing is everything. That you could be a day early with your company and your concept and it's too early. You could be a day late and you're a day late. You missed the timing of it. So understanding and appreciating how to grasp the timing is really, really crucial. In life itself, in many cases, timing is also just simply crucial. That the forces of nature that are around you warrant something to happen at a certain moment, and if you make that moment, great. If you miss that moment, disappointment and unfortunate. That's always the case with everything in faith and in religion. So we know that we have boundaries that are bound by time. I'm not really focused today on the calendar, but timing of actions in certain moments is a very big part, certainly of the Jewish faith. So eating the matzah not on the holiday of Passover sort of misses the timing, right? Sitting in the hut outside your home at the wrong time of the year doesn't appreciate the timing. Understanding the calendar with the idea that every seventh day is a Sabbath and that the timing of it happens when it happens, is an appreciation of what you can do before it comes in to what you cannot do after it comes in, appreciating that line, the timing of those different things. So timing is of the essence. In life, it's not just simply about showing up, it's probably also about showing up on time. And so that's really what it is. In the context of where I use it in the 4 rights of asking is making an ask at the right time. So separate from being the right person in that ask, going and asking for, let's say, a significant donation or a gift or whatever it may be, a favor from somebody, does require timing. You could get everything else right. So you could be the right person. You could have the storyline, the messaging right. You could have the amount or the specific thing that you need the person to do right. But if you ask it of them in the middle of the night, your success rate is going to be just as good as planting seeds in the dead of winter somewhere in Siberia. It's not happening. The timing is off. Simply not appreciating the moment when it has to be. And so this happened to me on many occasions in fundraising. That's how it became one of the 4 rights of asking. I remember a situation where I went to meet a donor. Everything had seemed right. We had spent time cultivating the relationship, engaging, developing, talking. So we had that all there. We had the amount that we were looking for. We had the project specifically that we needed exactly right. And so I went to see this person. In fact, the person had invited me to their home and said, well, next time you're in our area, come by, which seemed to indicate that we were on the cusp of a very large gift from this donor. Showed up at the person's house bright and early one morning after agreeing to a time, opens the door, and within 10 seconds after making the ask, I realized this was not the right time. The person was not feeling well. They were under the weather. They were having a bad day already. And so everything was right except for the timing of the ask. And you can guess the ending. The gift was a big, fat, giant $0 gift. And so appreciating the timing on these things is really important. So how do we do that? How do we sort of learn how to appreciate the timing? That's really the next step of this, is how we can appreciate timing in different situations. So one is really sort of thinking about what's going on around you, the forces that are around you in your environment with respect to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So appreciating those different forces. So it could be the seasonal as a force. It could be, economical as a force, and really appreciating the timing of what it is that you're about to do. The second thing with respect to understanding the timing of the ask is really to have context. So besides the forces around you, is to get a sense of the context of what it is that you're asking in the timing of the ask. So what I mean by that is there are certain times of the year, let's say in fundraising, where maybe it's a better time to ask for a large gift from somebody than at other times during the year. So maybe that's, the end of December, calendar year kind of a thing for a tax-related kind of opportunity for somebody. And maybe it's, when they're on a break or when they're on vacation, maybe that's the right time for them. So we're not just appreciating the forces at play that are pushing and moving and operating up against you and with you, but also in context. And I think the third thing here with respect to getting the timing right is patience. Really sensing the moment as well. This one comes more from experience than anything else. Sometimes you'll get it wrong. But from having gotten it wrong, you'll learn to get it right. And sometimes you'll look at a situation and think, this is going to be the moment I'm going to make the ask, or I'm going to do what I need to do, and realize, you know what, it's not today. And having patience on that timing is really important. So even if I want to accomplish something, even if I want to get something done, even if I want to have it, if the timing is wrong, even if I've met the right person or the perfect person, but it's at the wrong time, it's simply not going to go. So timing is really important. We know that in our own lives, the relationships that we have, the people that we work with, the people that we spend our lives with, our spouses. Think about the timing of those moments when we met those people and when we didn't meet those people. Had we met them a week earlier or a month later, then maybe it wouldn't have worked out. And as the famous quote goes, I don't even know who said it, time is an illusion, but timing is an art. So understanding and learning and appreciating the different things that are operating with respect to your personal timing in your own personal life, appreciating that patience is not just a virtue, but patience is critical and vital to your success, especially when it comes to the timing of things, and appreciating the context and the forces that are operating around you, around the timing, will help you then ultimately get to the right timing, will ultimately get you to the success that you're looking for. That is Coaching with the Bible for this week. Next week, episode 81. Have a great one.